I think we can all agree with absolute certainty that when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, that we all have fond memories of it. However, we've all learned so much from the deep philosophy behind the fact that every grown-up man is playing card games against each other for literally the highest stakes in the world. Trying to take over a country? Well, better open some booster packs. They're trying to catch Kaiba in the beginning of the original Duel Monsters. The fools send people with guns, or in the 4Kids, pointing fingers at him. That was very exciting. Why are they so foolish? Don't they realize that they need a good deck before a good weapon? Those morons. I think we could agree. The thematic beauty of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, how when the police is chasing someone on a motorcycle, they can hack into the enemy motorcycle to trigger a duel, but they can't hack into the enemy motorcycle to actually, shut it off so they can take their prey to jail. So I think this is always our favorite part of Yu-Gi-Oh! The deep, logical undertones behind literally every duel that takes place ever. And that is why, as I always say, Death Note and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are two of the most logical, stimulating anime of all time. Now, memes aside though, the stakes are insane when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels. And I always sort of considered Yu-Gi-Oh! A nostalgia anime for me, because I watched it when I was a kid. I played the game extensively, and it means so much to me. However, Yu-Gi-Oh! Low-key is freaking great, even not as a kid. I was just rewatching bits and pieces, and oh my god, it's actually really solid. That's the one issue with nostalgia shows. I feel like we're blinded by nostalgia and we don't realize how great it actually is. Nostalgia aside, I do intend to make more Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos, so definitely subscribe if you're interested. But today, I wanted to talk about the terror of an overpowered duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because thematically, it runs deep throughout the entire series, and it's not to be underestimated just because, oh man, that guy just murdered 10 children. What are we gonna do? We have him surrounded by a SWAT team. Are we gonna shoot him? Are we gonna catch him? No. We'll duel him one-on-one, all 10 of us consecutively, until eventually we can beat him and then take him into custody. It's these logical brilliance that I think gave a lot of people the impression that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a kid's show. And it is, but it doesn't make it any less great. The life lessons I learned from Yu-Gi-Oh! Were also fantastic. Some guy decides he wants to bully me in high school. Well, he's gonna have to beat me in a duel first. He didn't like that approach, and he didn't exactly follow the terms and services of the Duel Monsters guidelines, but it would have worked if he would have. One of the underlying beauties of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And I say original Yu-Gi-Oh! Because this is actually something that was lost with future series, despite the fact that I do really like GX and 5Ds respectively. There was a very mystical side to OG Yu-Gi-Oh! So, for this video, talking about the terror of an overpowered duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh!, I will be referring mostly to OG and GX. OG on the mystical side, and GX on the technical side. Pegasus based his game off this ancient Egyptian death battle, where people would summon monsters to fight each other, and that's why the isekai arc at the end of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Was better than most isekai anime. One slight downside, Atem didn't have a harem. But can't have everything. So, the emphasis Yu-Gi-Oh! Had on the world, present day, was largely based off of that. I mean, Pegasus was creating these cards. The duel discs or whatever were summoning holograms. There's no need to base them off these ancient Egyptian monsters that used to clash in these massive royal death games. But he did use them. He didn't just make up his own cards, at least largely. And that is because of the impact these monsters have on fate. There is an important theme of fate in Yu-Gi-Oh! And the recurrence of fate, with major players from millennia ago somehow reincarnating, popping back up in order to save the world from a different form of evil. This is not a video that I'm trying to discuss the relevant themes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And in a nutshell, this is why the Orichalcos arc is the worst arc as well. It does not tie in to the underlying themes. This is one of the reasons why Bakura is actually one of my favorite anime villains. But I get ahead of myself. I intend to make several videos on Yu-Gi-Oh! In a world governed by this fateful death game that is reincarnated as well into these Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, granted, it's true. It does not make sense that the world is supposed to be running around what's essentially the nerdiest epic sport of all time, but somehow the world is. There are major TV shows of these card games that pull far more weight than any sport of our own modern day. Everyone lived and breathed Yu-Gi-Oh!, where Kaiba can essentially take over for an entire city to start the Battle City tournament, where everyone citywide was eager to partake. The hysteria and fanaticism for the Yu-Gi-Oh game within the Yu-Gi-Oh world is unparalleled with anything we have here. Now, in GX, as I've mentioned, I'm going to be talking about the technical side of things. But in OG Yu-Gi-Oh, it's obvious and apparent from the course of the story that the reason why Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters took hold of the society in the anime by the balls, I tell you, is because of some form of fateful reincarnation of this ancient game as well. In ancient Egypt, we had more roughed up versions of the characters that we've been following for the entire story. It's even hinted at in Battle City when Yugi was fighting Kaiba with that whole flashback. And when I say flashback, I don't mean to something that happened before. I don't mean to tragic backstories. I mean to 3,000 ago previous lives where they used to play these massive death games with dark magicians and blue eyes white dragons. That's a flashback! But it again shows history repeating itself, where Kaiba in the beginning was in opposition to Yugi, but eventually ended up joining his side later in the world, where Bakura was a present force trying to accumulate the Millennium items, and these items were ancient and used 3,000 years ago. Isn't it a funny coincidence that in the actual narrative of the series, the moment Yugi put the last piece of his Millennium puzzle together and woke up Atem, where a 3,000-year-old ancient pharaoh grabs hold of the reality the series is based in, that's the same time, give or take a couple of days, that Pegasus comes up with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. It wasn't a national phenomenon until that very moment. Duelist Kingdom was literally the first grand-scale tournament. Until that point, games were basic and didn't even deal with life points. It's just everyone draws 5 cards, summons the strongest monster in their hands without tributing or whatever, and whoever has the more attack points wins the match. That was essentially what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was, narratively speaking, before Yugi started playing his hand. The recurrence of fate is extremely important in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's why I get to here. In ancient Egypt, the Duel Monsters games that they've played summoned these massive monsters that would tear each other to shreds and kill people and stuff, and was slightly more gruesome than holograms attacking each other, but somehow every time someone loses a duel, they end up sprawled on the floor, drained of life force, and trapped into the Shadow Realm, or souls stolen by the Orichalcos or whatever. Not the point! That's irrelevant to the actual game of Duel Monsters. But the reason why Duel Monsters recurred and became so integral to the society of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because the ancient figures that are being reincarnated need to do battle in some modern day platform. If you've seen anime long enough, you understand that when the stakes are high, it could literally be a competition of anything, and you will be on the floor having excitement seizures because, oh my god, Soma just beat his opponent in cooking, or Hinata beat his opponent in volleyball. Two relatively mundane things that anime can literally bring to life with the passion felt on both sides. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is more than that, because the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game itself, granted, can be played from passion. It can be played because someone loves his cards, loves the game, and is risking his entire life on a single game. Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is essentially one of the greatest gambling anime of all time. But even further, the consequences are so much more real. I was never a huge fan of the heart of the cards! My friends believe in me, so I set the deck before the duel, putting Exodia on the top. I wonder if friendship will grant me victory! And lo and behold, friendship granted him victory. But that again is because the deck is supposed to be at random, so no amount of friendship is gonna help you in that regard. In other anime, like sports, people, exert themselves. They have adrenaline boosts. They're fighting for their friends. I actually get that. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Though, it shouldn't make sense. But on the flip side, this game is a reoccurrence of what went on in ancient Egypt, and therefore should be run by passion, just like the old death game was, just in modern mechanics, where the forces of luck itself bends to willpower. OG Yu-Gi-Oh! Is mysticism, and the enthrallment of the world towards this game is clearly because there needs to be a mystical yet physical, irrelevant importance to these duels that can carry over to modern times, where the literal fate of the world can rest upon the shoulders of the one with the spikiest hair. So as I've mentioned, if Yu-Gi-Oh! Is important to society on a mystical level, then obviously the one who wields the most dueling prowess is the most powerful powerful in the world. Fatefully, they are a far more dangerous opponent than motorcyclists with chains. Yeah, dumb thugs can be taken down by literally throwing Yu-Gi-Oh cards at them, and if the Yu-Gi-Oh card you throw has more attack points, the more powerful the throw is. You throw a Blue Eyes, you can literally blow up an entire enemy organization. Mai took down a group of guys on motorcycles because she was throwing freaking harpies. Harpies can only take down like one guy at a time, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The point is, I feel like even though looking at Yu-Gi-Oh from a logical standpoint, you're not supposed to be trying to take down terrorists with card games. Guns seem to work so much better. Well, maybe not in 4Kids. But thematically, it's Yu-Gi-Oh cards that need to save the day. To quench the evil possessing Marek, he fatefully needed to be defeated in a duel. The Yu-Gi-Oh world does not govern like almost any other anime I know. Before making this video, I always looked at the world as another one of those sports anime style passion projects, where people got really worked up on Yu-Gi-Oh because Yu-Gi-Oh is literally the biggest source of entertainment in the world. So it carries much more value. Just like in Soma, we're following a school that's literally about the best chefs in the world. So their cooking matches bring you to the higher levels of hype than almost any action anime I could think of. But no, I was always wrong in my assumption of that, because Yu-Gi-Oh is far more to the world than the passion project of the duelists involved. In Soma, if there was a terrorist, they're not going to challenge him to who could make the best omelet. Unlike most sports or gambling anime, Yu-Gi-Oh does not run by the natural order of the world, but twist! There's a passion to this Yu-Gi-Oh game. It operates on a mystical level, which is what makes an overpowered duelist absolutely terrifying, whether you only realized it subconsciously while watching, or you made the conscious assessment of why a good duelist is so imposing. On a mystical level, they will be so much harder to beat. A lot of people don't like the Orichalcos arc because it's filler and whatever, and I don't plan on ever doing a video on the Orichalcos arc because I've made it a point to only do videos on things I want to talk about. So if you notice, I don't do a lot of critique on my channel, at least not normal critique. I do that sarcastic assholey stuff, but again, that's because I like doing it. So I will probably not make an individual video critiquing the Orichalcos arc itself, but while I have your attention to this point, literally every theme that's governing the Yu-Gi-Oh world itself does not apply to Orichalcos. The reason why Kaiba beat Yugi at the end of the Duelist Kingdom arc, before the whole Pegasus plot point, where he basically blackmailed Yugi into forfeiting, shows the power of Kaiba and how he's emotionally manipulating his opponent to take victory. Yugi is the strongest duelist, so he should not be losing in any other way. He's the goddamn pharaoh. He was the strongest ruler of Egypt 3,000 years ago. The card game, on a mystical level, should be stronger in his regard, no matter how much he's struggling against his opponent. I don't want to get into the various plot points, but everything throughout the series really fits into this way of looking at it, and rewatching a lot of key moments in the anime just recently really opened my eyes to a genuinely great show, following many different themes than I originally anticipated when rewatching any of it. The fact that Marek's family was meant to be the guardian of sorts of the pharaoh goes to show the relevance of fate in the series. They knew he was going to reemerge due to this ideal passed down their family's bloodlines for generations. That's why the Orichalcos arc is the worst arc in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's why the final arc is the best arc in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that is why an overpowered duelist, someone selected by fate to be a prime adversary for the mystical good guys of the series, is absolutely terrifying. Not because they may take your prize money when they defeat you, but because they're fated to play a pivotal role, and you don't know if that's where Yugi's story will finally end. So now, that's the OG Yu-Gi-Oh side of things. That's why an overpowered duelist in OG Yu-Gi-Oh is absolutely terrifying, and that's what makes the stakes so high. That, in a nutshell, is why the actual power system of Yu-Gi-Oh, being the card games, are so freaking great. In Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, though, as I've mentioned, it's a far more technical style take on overpowered characters. It's clear that GX takes place after the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And I know it gets a lot of hate just because of how low the stakes are in comparison to the original Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, as a standalone, is actually really pretty good, okay? I'm not gonna give it the really, really good rating, but really pretty good. It it definitely deserves. It has some fantastic characters, some pretty good arcs, and again, the isekai arc at the end of GX was absolutely amazing, and I don't really care what anyone else has to say. It was freaking great. Better than most isekai anime. What a coincidence! The two best arcs in the first two generations of Yu-Gi-Oh! Were the two isekai arcs. But anyway, I will not be talking about the isekai arc here at all. I will be talking about a technical look at what makes an overpowered duelist terrifying. Because since the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Gave a mystical twist to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game itself, making it so much more prevalent in society, making it more loved in society, and making it the quintessential draw for everything in society, it's only obvious that in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, there's a literal duel academy, a massive school teaching duelists. Only good duelists that pass the entrance exams. They only take the cream of the crop. But imagine an actual society focused on dueling as a prime profession. And this isn't post-high school where people could basically do whatever the hell they want and follow their dreams, which unfortunately doesn't usually happen because I have to take this back to the depressing note. But in any case, this is actual high school. Can you imagine a parent sending a child to Duel Academy High School unless it was a prevalent source of income for life? When it comes to most sports, you really need to be elite to freaking make it. What percent of football players in the world do you think are actually living off football? It's that 0.001% success rate that draws so many people to follow their dreams and chase these sports. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, apparently, it's so much more culturally relevant than something like football is in Western society that they legitimately make a Yu-Gi-Oh! High school that just doesn't have enough room for all the applicants. And I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX tackles the importance of a medium purely based on passion and how powerful it actually is in regards to society. Take something like YouTube, for example. I am a huge fan of YouTube. In fact, I even have a channel here. Granted, it's probably the weirdest anime channel on YouTube that does a mix between really super in-depth stuff and really super satire assholey content, which I'm also proud of. That and memes. Memes are too good. But I get off topic. Becoming a YouTuber is essentially a dream of many people. And I can only continue thanking you for your support, and I am overwhelmingly appreciated by the fact that you decided to watch this video. But again, it's a job in entertainment, and every job in entertainment is a fickle fiend. It could be trending and hype one moment, and it could die the next. That said, there is so much power in the entertainment industry, it's almost terrifying. People want YouTubers as their role models. They look up to them. They aspire to be them. And I use this as an example because all of the world's passion in Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially GX, where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a sport that's already blossomed, makes duelists idols in the eyes of the populace. Yugi's deck was on tour and people were dying to get a glimpse of the deck box. Damn it. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX took the niche passion of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the OG Yu-Gi-Oh! And made it a worldwide phenomenon frenzy. There is no escaping it and no escaping its actual importance. It's a game that, for mystical reason or not, took over the world. Damn it. Kaiba Corp is the richest company in the world. Can you imagine it beating Amazon? Amazon freaking ships everything. You could buy anything on Amazon. They have movies. They're killing generic businesses just because why walk across the street to go shopping if I could buy literally the same exact thing for cheaper on Amazon and it'll arrive to me. I don't even need to cross the street within the next day. But Kaiba Corp is bigger than that. There is more of an importance towards a gaming company than something that literally has real life implementations for the everyday task. Do you understand the magnitude of the importance Yu-Gi-Oh! Has on society? Can you even fathom how massive of an industry it is? So on an industrial level, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the peak of what entertainment is, far higher than anything that we have to compare it to in our modern day life. Something that literally everyone is into, that everyone is aspiring to become, and where if you use Power Bond to fuse 3 Cyber Dragons in your hand on the first turn to summon Cyber End Dragon, its attack doubles to 8,000, where even though it's destroyed at the end of the turn and you would take 4,000 damage, making you lose, it's the ultimate power play, because when it attacks an opponent's monster's defense, you subtract that monster's defense points from Cyber End Dragon's attack points, and the difference gets removed from your opponent's life points. Yes, they explained this with every character that had piercing damage in the original GX, and it was freaking beautiful, damn it. So a character like Zane, Kaiser Truesdale, a character that possesses so much tactical prowess in Yu-Gi-Oh! That every first turn was almost a surefire victory for the guy. The power someone like that has on modern society is terrifying, and the passion and awe every inhabitant of the world only further propels a success of it. A guy like Ninja today, who plays Fortnite and makes millions upon millions, where every gaming company in the world is fighting over getting their hands on him, to just say, hey, I like this game, because they know that even if they pay him $1 million for saying that, they will make money due to the influence he has. This is a guy that's good at Fortnite. And to gauge the difference in popularity between a game like Fortnite compared to the scale of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the Yu-Gi-Oh! World, the CEO of Fortnite is worth $7 billion, which is a hell of a lot of money. Now, Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, is worth $153 billion. In a month, he makes over $10 billion. You realize in 3 weeks, Jeff Bezos makes more than the CEO of Fortnite has altogether? And in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World, Kaiba Corp is worth more than the rivaling Amazon or whatever. It is the biggest company in the world. Can you imagine the influence and passion behind something like that? I mean, the world went crazy over Fortnite last year, and it's literally a spit in the ocean compared to the passion behind what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. On a technical level, a star in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World is so much more powerful than any form of celebrity we can even fathom in our daily life. And whether you like it or not, even if said celebrity has absolutely no idea what they're talking about politically, they are followed by millions of people grabbing every word they have to say. I'm not personally a huge fan of this culture, but it exists nonetheless. Imagine the real world influence a powerful duelist has in Yu-Gi-Oh! Imagine playing in the big leagues of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where every victory gets you closer to unattainable fame in our world. On a technical level, that is why an overpowered duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is terrifying. To keep afloat, Zane at certain points needed to enter these underground duel matches where they wore these electric shock collars because, hey, that's just a more twisted way to play the game everyone's enthralled with. It's like Rice Gum playing Fortnite, but every time he gets a kill, some random hot girl next to him will have to take off a pair of clothes because that was a thing. This is just higher stakes Yu-Gi-Oh! That Zane had to get into in order to proceed. With success driving someone, a single failure will absolutely destroy them, and that's exactly Zane's character arc when he started using his Cyberdark deck. Now, this is not supposed to be a Zane video, so I don't want to get into that, but just like some medium in this regard can bring you to the highest of the high in regard to the world's perspective of you, the fall is so much stronger. Depression hits so much harder, and depravity is ever and ever closer with any loss you feel. I do hope you did enjoy this video because I spent a lot of time looking into the moving parts of Yu-Gi-Oh! And just how terrifying an overpowered duelist is. I do think I made my case at least adequately with only a few memes sprinkled in there, but the memes shall reign supreme because I am working on other Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos, so definitely subscribe if you enjoyed this one. Also, leave a like if you perhaps thought of something you have not thought of in the past in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because most people don't think about Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just a nostalgia piece. It doesn't hold any value, but it does, and it's great. Link in the description to my Twitter. Feel free to follow me there, as well as a link to my Patreon. All patrons are invited to the Discord server, and honestly, it's thanks to Patreon that I am able to survive here. Being a YouTuber does not exactly pay as much as being a duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Unfortunately, and all patrons are extremely appreciated. I wanted to especially thank David Anol, Negus Nogus, Burning Bush, Rise Warren, Sage of Snake, Wilson Fletcher, Team Sparky65, The Unknown Taku, Girthy Worm, Jim, Allison Stricker, The Wolf of Gar, JD Finch, Laser, The Ethan, Ravy Landek, Nick Sands, Kevin McLean, Jordan, White Noise 32, Nasty Frank's Barbecue, Talon, Bestest Daddy Cross, Mitchell Garnett, Miriam Ramirez, Trigreen, Hammers the Great, Ian Martin, Praise Lord the Gilgameshu, Serial Flex Offender, Shinon Lord Sashomaru, Kid Ori, JJ Slaybrams, The Night Brights, LJ Kaiser Wanar, Don Soko, Professor Scythe, Divine Reigns, Hexiled, Teakui, Skylar Leg, Some Guy Named Bob, Samuel Guzman, Burning Halo, Tase Me Daddy, that's not weird, Juan Centeno, Karma, King Rainbow, Jeffrey Baltazar, and TM Philly. Thanks to the Lord Twiggerang, Frank, Anthony Booth, Steelers, Chubbs is the Man, Noctress 13, Cream My Pancake, Elliot Gonzalez, MD, Adria Pica, Soza Nerdified, Everest, Austin Wexelblatt, and the Ninth Master. Thanks to the Godus up tier, Dark Elemented, Waldo Flores, Poozerker, Steve, Muafak, Necro, Maurice Luis Dreyfus, Sonny Parks, and Gintama for life. And thanks to the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Christopher Caras. All of you are a huge help and probably more than you can even imagine. All patrons are invited to the Discord server, so feel free to sign up. That would be dope. I'm trying to maintain my persona of being a weirdo, and so I've made an in-depth look at society and Yu-Gi-Oh! So, I think that's a check on the weirdness scale. Don't see anyone doing that, so that's good, but weird is good. So remember to stay weird, fam.